All right, everyone. Today on Sports Break, I am super excited to have Hailey Marsh, who is one of the Future Millionaires team members, which if you haven't checked them out on Instagram, please check the show notes. You have to follow them. But welcome so much to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to be talking to you again.
Yeah, so tell folks a little bit about who you are, Future Millionaires, all that good stuff.
So you gave me a great intro. I'm one of 3 founders of Future Millionaires, which is a media platform that covers women's sports. And we're usually not the first to report on things, but we like to think that we have the funniest takes.
They do. Side note, they do.
Yeah. And so Future Millionaires is just one of those things that every day I wake up and, try to think of the funniest meme, the funniest joke to go along with the best women's sports content news of the day. My background is in sports marketing. I've worked for the past close to 10 years on doing major ad campaigns for global clients for the Olympic Games. So I've worked on P&G's Thank You Mom campaign. Yeah, a little tearjerker there. And then I've also worked, the latest work I've done kind of on a global scale is for Toyota and their global Olympics efforts. But, as you mentioned, kind of coming into the podcast, sports have been weird this year. The Olympics have been weird this year. So that's kind of interrupted my flow, doing my, other job of creating sports advertising.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of my story is, I'm kind of fully ingrained in the sports world and specifically love the women's sports world.
Love it. And thank you for that ad campaign. That was such, it's always moving. So good. But what got you interested? That's a long career to have in one industry. And it's so exciting to meet people who are doing what they love. That's just like, life's too short to not be in that space. So what part of growing up, your childhood or adolescence made you want to pursue that?
Well, I think it's 2 parts. One that was sort of obvious from my childhood, which is the fact that I love sports. And I've always been, since just I was, 4 or 5 years old, just like completely crazy about sports. I grew up in Denver. I'm a huge Broncos fan, Nuggets fan, Rockies fan. And so I've always wanted to work in sports. And then I grew up playing sports, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the other part of my career that, with Future Millionaires and the advertising work that I do is I didn't figure out this part until later, but creativity is so important to me. And it's such a challenge for me to think of new ideas, to think of ideas that will resonate with people, to think of things that will make people emotional, whether that's happy or make you cry, maybe like the P&G ad. So I think it's a mixture of like combining, a need for sports to be in my life every day, and also a need to kind of be creative.
Which is so fun. I feel like a lot of people tune in and watch sports, and maybe you like see creativity through athletes making crazy plays or something, but there is so much to the industry side. That's just like so fun to be involved in.
Oh, it's wild how deep. Look, everybody wants to be, if you're into sports, like there's a little part of you that wants to be into the sports industry.
Yeah.
If you can't be on the field, you want to be attached to the field.
Yeah. In the room somehow. Yeah. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's chat your non-professional sports career, as we like to call it. What did you grow up playing, and how long were you playing for?
So I grew up playing basketball and soccer primarily. I grew up in Denver, and I have 2 older brothers who were always kicking my butt in, backyard soccer and basketball games. And so I grew up playing soccer really seriously, competitively, And actually in basketball, I got like more, this is like going back, but I think I got more like awards for basketball in my career than I did for soccer, but I ended up playing college soccer at the University of Utah. But I was like a top 10 basketball player in the state of Colorado the year I graduated also.
Dang.
So, and that's all divisions. And I went to a small high school, but, basketball is a huge passion of mine too. And soccer, when I went to, I liked soccer growing up. I loved basketball. I never played like on a, competitive basketball team, but I just naturally had a knack for it. But so I loved basketball. I didn't totally love soccer. I loved all my teammates. Then I went to college and played for my college coach. His name is Rich Manning at the University of Utah. And he had just come from Santa Clara University, where they had just won a national championship. And he made me love, he just turned me into a soccer lover. He made me love the game and developed me so much as a player, and also just as a human being, leadership. And, we were kind of a scrappy team back then. We were good, a lot of fight to us. I think my senior year, we were top 10 in the country.
Wow.
So, we had a good run. And then, post college, it was like, I was completely, I was sort of lost without sports, because I went into television first. I had no sports connection, and then found my way back.
Yeah. So for the competitive part of you, or like the being active in sports, do you as an adult play rec leagues at all, or anything still to this day?
Yes. So up until COVID.
True. Yeah.
Up until COVID. Yeah. So there's like a pre-COVID sports world and post. I played soccer. I think I played soccer at least once a week.
Awesome.
In a co-ed 7v7 league on hockey nets, every single week for the last 13 or 14 years.
That's awesome.
So, and then when COVID hit, it really limited the amount of sports you could play. So I actually just recently picked up tennis.
Cool.
And I was struggling at first, but I play like 2 or 3 times a week now.
Dang.
Had a pretty good game last night. So
there you go. Yeah.
So that's what I've been working on hard, is my tennis game.
Yeah. So that is one sport that I'll play every now and then, but every time I play, it's like the one, I play for a day, and then the next day my whole body hurts. It's like you use so many muscles in tennis that you don't even think about.
Oh, the movement on the court. And especially when you're playing on a hard court, it's like your hips, it's your back, it's kind of like the full body coordination. And then just making sure like you're getting the right kind of spin on the ball. It's such a fun sport to be into.
Yeah. Yeah. The physical and mental part of it. I don't know. I just think it's so amazing to me to see when pros play and like how hard they're hitting it and how accurately. It's just nuts. Yeah. It's just nuts.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. It's like the mental part of it is almost the most fun challenge to me about tennis, because you really have to stay so level to continue to compete. Last night I missed a couple shots, and it's like not like I should not be taking it this seriously, but when in this game I was playing, if I lost a point, somebody else like came up and ran on the court in my place.
Oh.
So I lost a point, and I was like screaming F-bombs. And like the woman that replaced me is like 55, and I'm like, F this, GD, like just saying like just horrible stuff. And she kind of gives me a look. I'm like, it's not that serious. I'm sorry.
That is funny though. I feel like that's a part of us that, a lot of us aren't getting that out this year if we don't find outlets, or we're getting it out in unhealthy ways. But yeah, I just feel like that's such a part of, especially people who've played sports all their lives. They've got to have that competitiveness somehow. And just like striving to be better, like better yourself at something. I just think
Well,
that's really
yeah.
cool.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like such a distraction. It's like you go out there for an hour and a half, 2 hours and play. And it is just like for a year where time has gone by so slowly, it is such a gift to be able to go someplace where time doesn't exist. And you're just on the court and you're not focused on anything except timing your forehand to make sure it's got like the right amount of topspin,
Yeah. I love that. I think too. So when I think of tennis, I think it's like chess, like athletic chess sometimes.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Mentally, and well, and it's like, you know, ball placement and, it's not always about the power. It's about like the finesse
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Like when they hit the slices and it's like, oh, it just got over the net. Oh, daggers.
Or like, even like the beauty of like, and the strength of a good lob. That'll kind of get you back, if you're falling behind, a nice lob will get you right back in the game.
And like,
Right
what a
back in the
fun
rally.
word. Lob. I just lobbed it, like typically that's like a negative sounding word, but no, when
I
done
know
nicely.
it's the granny shot of tennis.
Ah, there you go. I love it. I love it. Okay, so we brought up a couple things I did want to circle back to because I'm like you. I love playing basketball. That was like my favorite sport growing up. I also played soccer too. So I'm curious what you love, about each sport that you mentioned, and two, like what about soccer got introduced or reintroduced to you in college that made you fall in love with it?
So I think for basketball, it's like there are only 5 players on your team, five players on the court, And so there's this ability, and I played point guard. There's an ability to just have an immediate individual impact on a game. Like if momentum needs to shift, you have it within you to just shift the momentum with a block shot or with a fast break or with a key 3-pointer. It just is like your impact can be substantial on an individual level. With soccer, you've got 11 players on the field. So, it's a little bit, you really have to make the most of the moments where the ball is at your feet. It's more, to me, that's why like tennis and soccer are very similar, where it's like the team who makes the fewest mistakes will win.
True. Yeah.
So I think to me, when I look at soccer, there's a different team aspect to it that makes it just like beautiful and fun. And the individual aspect of basketball makes that just amazing to me.
Yeah, I do think, and like the change of pace in those two sports too lends itself to, like for soccer, I played goalkeeper. So it was always like if a shot went in, I felt terrible. But then like the whole rest of the team would be like, no, like it got by 10 of us first, like there is, because it's such a big deal when one goal gets scored versus basketball. It's like every 10 seconds a goal can be scored, basket can be scored. So that's interesting. That's an interesting aspect of it. Yeah.
Yeah. With soccer, I think the beauty of it for me in college came from, we were this team of players and there was a lot of talent on the team. I bet the Utah soccer team now actually has more talent than we had. They're in the Pac-12 now, which is the best conference in the country, if not, might be the second best, first best conference. I mean, I think they had like 8 teams make the NCAA tournament last year out of the Pac-12. It's like insane how good that conference is now. But when we were there, it was like Rich's first year as a coach, maybe second year as a coach. And we had talented players, and somehow we like willed our way to, top 25 rankings, top 15 rankings, top 10 rankings. And it was just incredible to see sort of like the sacrifices that my teammates, they would just lay their bodies out, for the ball, or like lay other people on the other team out. And you just kind of like look at the people that you're playing next to, even if you don't even like them off the field, and you just sort of like look at them in awe of like, wow, that is so incredible. And just, you kind of feel that sisterhood,
Mm. That's good. That's really good. Yeah. Well, I wonder, do you remember when you guys cracked the top 10? What that, like, was there a moment where you, like the whole team was together and you're like, oh my gosh?
We had just, yeah, it was sort of probably October of my senior year. And I think we ended the season, our record was like 20-3.
Dang.
And, and that season, we weren't playing, we were playing good competition. We opened that season playing Stanford and Santa Clara.
Wow.
And, we had a couple other really tough games in there to kind of make sure that our schedule, that's so important when you're not, at the time we were in the Mountain West Conference. So the beginning of our schedule really had to be packed with talented teams outside of the conference, because the Mountain West was good, but it's it's not a top tier conference. So not Power 5. So, yeah, we just kept winning and winning and winning. And I think by the time we entered the tournament, I think we were like 9th or something like that.
Nice. Gosh, that's so fun. So fun. Well, what do you think? And I love that you brought this up too, just organically talking about your coach and, learning leadership and everything. But what do you feel like playing sports, being involved in sports helped you as you grew up, and like anything of who you are today? Like, what can you contribute that to sports?
Well, I think the number one thing that I can attribute to sports, just that has carried through my entire life, is mental toughness. I remember when I was like 12, I mean, it was like club soccer in Colorado, it was like dog eat dog. But I remember I had a coach give me a book called Mental Toughness for Athletes in Sport. And then if you looked at the book cover, I still have it now. If you looked at the book cover, it's so cheesy. But, as a 12-year-old, when you receive a book about mental toughness and about failure and about resilience, that's kind of ingraining that stuff really early on. And so, when I go through, stuff at work now, when I work on teams, I think one of the most important thing to me is just the camaraderie, the teamwork, the kind of resilience. So I think some of that stuff comes through. And then when even my dad got sick, and I mentioned that on the last podcast that I spoke to you, and that's he was sick with cancer, but you use some of these lessons, you just focus on, this is something, a lesson Rich Manning taught, which was, you mess up, the only thing you can do is focus on the next play. So if something goes wrong in the hospital, the only thing you can focus on is the next play. So I really love having sort of next play mentality.
Yeah.
Which is you cannot dwell on what just happened. You just have to keep focusing on what is directly in front of you, and only that one next play, because that's the only thing you can control. So to me, I always talk about next play mentality.
Yeah. Well, just hearing you say that, I mean, so much of life is getting through tough moments. And so if you can relate it to, yeah, that's game time, it's everything that we're doing in the mundane day to day is just building us up to get through those. And whether it's learning how to lean on people or having that mentality, like you said, I think that's so important. Yeah. And it's cool to hear you talk about, a couple coaches having influenced you so strongly. I think that too is something that, you can carry out, and it really does ingrain in you just this, one, probably desire to give back or be that to someone else. But it's just, I don't know, I think it's so unique to sports to have that kind of role model.
Oh, it's incredible. I still think about my high school basketball coach too. This guy named Jack Lohman. And when he came to coach the women's varsity team, it was the first time he'd ever coached girls. And Which kind of seems like antiquated now, like, oh, what's the difference and between coaching women and coaching men or girls and boys. And he was a screamer. And I think that was like the big difference. And but there was one game, and he got in trouble for this, but he grabbed me by the neck of my jersey, and he was screaming in my face, and you know, and he was like, "The way that you go is the way the team goes." And I was having a horrible game, so of course we were losing, and so I think he got suspended after that game because it was like such a public thing, but he's forgiven. He was just such an amazing, amazing coach who really taught me the importance of just the fundamentals of everything. You know, it's like he taught the fundamentals of like hard work, and he always talked about, you know, flossing your teeth. You know, you got to pay attention to details in life. So yeah.
I love it. I mean, they, especially in high school, like it is more than just the sport that you're playing, in my opinion. And like, and talking to so many people on this podcast, like the life lessons that they are teaching, whether they know it or not, stick with people. It's
totally
amazing.
And they toughen you up, you know what I mean? They get you, you know, him screaming in my face is like just like lightly preparing me for, you know, the real world.
That's true. Okay, that is true. Not everyone's going to be rosy and polite. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So what are you, you know, you're from Denver. What do you think it's going to take to get an NWSL team in Denver?
Oh man, I saw a tweet today from Anthony DeChico. And he was like, okay.
He's in Utah, right? Sorry.
I think he's in Utah.
Yeah.
I think he is. Yeah, but he tweeted out today, he's like, his big wish is to get an NWSL team to, like, he listed several markets, but Denver was on the list. And Denver's such a good soccer market.
Oh yeah.
It really is. I mean, I think the tough thing about Denver, it's no different than LA. I mean, but it's such a sports town. You know what I mean? You've got every men's professional sports league possible. So making sure that like they have a good facility, that they could maybe kind of work with the Rapids and the MLS to make a team, you know, work there. And then also it's going to take somebody with a lot of capital. And somebody who, and look, in the same way that it took somebody with a lot of capital to invest in the MLS or the NBA or the NFL, it's like these leagues did not, you know, they were not successful overnight. It took them 40, 50 years to get to the places that they are now. And I think that's something, you know, we people don't talk about as much. It's like, yes, it takes long-term investment, and yeah, it's going to take some real money, like we're seeing with Kansas City, like we're seeing with LA. So I think it's going to take the right person to bring the team there.
Yeah. And I mean, I think people don't realize too, like some of those leagues, NBA, MLB, got subsidy money, like they got government money. So, you know, it's like, yes, we need that same level, and that's not going to happen. That type of money is not going to happen. So I'd love for, Denver to get NWSL and WNBA. I think both.
Oh my God,
would be huge. And especially now that sadly NWSL is leaving Utah, something in that area. It's just
Mountain West needs a team.
Yeah.
I think a team will come back to Salt Lake City.
I do too.
It was such a good market, and the fact that they were averaging 10,000 fans a game. Yeah. Only second to Portland in attendance for the NWSL. It's crazy.
Yeah, unreal.
I mean, look, I think that Kansas City, I was so sad that the Royals left Utah. I think Kansas City, just looking at the ownership group, looking at the reasons that they left Salt Lake City, you know, it was like racism and misogyny that was like that rotted out the whole organization. It's like, okay, so let's pick up and move to a place where we actually have like incredible female leadership and ownership. And so in that way, I'm like, this might have been the best thing that ever happened to the Royals.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, and I was sad that they left Kansas City when they did, because it was such a great
Yes.
market too. So it's like, okay, let's just double it up. Let's just have them in both, you know? Can we just have it in both? Also,
I know.
Canada.
And the infrastructure is, oh yeah, Canada, right? Do we need a Vancouver team? Is that too many teams?
Yes, and Toronto. I think we need both, but yeah, Vancouver would be fun for Seattle, Portland, that whole
that
like
crazy.
But they'd have so many in that one little area.
I know.
All of them. They all need it. New Orleans, that'd be a fun. I don't know.
Fun.
Gosh, this is so random. And then I'll let you go and we'll do some rapid fire. I'm not going to try to take all your time. But if you could right now start a team in any league, any city with any other co-owner, you've got the capital, what are you doing?
That is so funny you asked me that question, because before you asked me the question about what's it going to take to bring a team to Denver, I literally sat at my kitchen table today and I'm like, okay, who do I know that is very, very rich that can buy an NWSL franchise, put it in Denver, and then I could just be the GM?
Love it. What'd you come up with? Anyone?
I don't know. I don't know anybody like very, very rich. I need to find, let's get John Elway on this.
Yeah, I was supposed to say Peyton or John Elway.
Yes, exactly.
They both have daughters, don't they? Not that matters, but that's an end to a conversation, you know?
Yeah, John Elway's daughter is 1 year younger than me. And I don't know. She grew up playing for the same club team.
Oh, cool.
Just a year younger than I was, but I got to track down Jesse Elway.
There you go. So you're going NWSL in Denver is what you're doing? That's your dream?
Yeah, I'm going. All right. NWSL. Yeah, Denver. I'm torn between Denver and Salt Lake because I love Utah.
Do you have a name?
No, I don't have a name yet.
Okay, we'll have to circle back for that one.
You know what I could do is they're going to be the Denver Millionaires.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh!
And on shouting out future millionaires. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're going to make them all rich. They come to Denver. They're going to be stars.
I love it. Listeners, if you haven't followed them yet, go follow Future Millionaires on Instagram. You've had 25 minutes to do so. Come on.
Yes, and remember, it's HEIRS.
Yes. I know. It's so Shawn Mendes. Are you a fan?
Yeah.
So have you watched his documentary on Netflix?
Oh, I have not watched it, but I have seen the trailer and I'm reading all about the fallout from it.
Fallout?
No, there's no fallout.
Oh, I was about to say, but it's really cool. And he does this manifestation journal.
Okay.
Where he will write down hundreds of times a goal that he wants to achieve or something. It's Denver Future Millionaires, Denver, never know.
There we go. Yeah.
Maybe Shawn Mendes will partner up. He'd do a Toronto one probably.
Oh yeah. Oh, we got to get more celebs into the league.
Yeah. You know? And yeah, partnering with Future Millionaires. So thanks so much for taking the time to come on our little pod.
Oh, I loved it. I could talk forever about sports.
I know. Isn't it fun? Don't you just miss? I just miss it. I just miss the shooting the breeze, waiting for kickoff, the
escape of it all.
Are you as passionate in the fan stands as you are on the tennis court?
Yes. Yes.
Do you yell at refs?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in the NWSL. Let's be real. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again. How can people follow you, follow Future Millionaires?
So you can find Future Millionaires on Twitter and on Instagram. Instagram is sort of the main platform for Future Millionaires. We'll be starting season 2 of our podcast coming up in 2021 when sports kind of come back and pick back up. So follow on Instagram and I'll let everybody know once you're there how to find us on the podcast.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining.
Thanks so much, Ashley.